Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for joining us here today. I'm Philippe from the Vibe Coding Club. Today we are joined by Ben, a Vibe coder and an educator in the space. First of all, I also want to thank to all the team, Pedro and the remaining production team to put this all together, Commutal for all the support too. And as some of you have already joined previous sessions, some are starting today, the idea of the Vibe Coding Club is that we have these sessions where, on a light-hearted and fireside manner, we just have a chat, conversation, and then of course we explore several topics around vibe coding, building with AI, and always joined by someone who's actually doing it in many manners. Today we have Ben. Ben is someone that's been on the entrepreneurship space for more than 20 years, from an operator to founder to VC, and more recently he started not only vibe coding but advocating this as something that can really enable people, and he's also now an educator. He recently started a couple of courses, and maybe I want to start with maybe a little bit about that. Ben, I think you started your most recent course last week, right?
Yep, that's right.
For a small cohort of people. How's that going?
Yeah, it's going great. So first, thanks for having me. Went to the first session, it was great, and I'm happy to be there in the second. And yeah, as you said, I started with a coding school called Code for All, which is specialized in reskilling and upskilling. A new course focused on another course I created for Udemy, which was more like self-serve type of thing. Was a very short course, and they approached me and they said, how about creating a longer course that would be for students in a small group? That's something they've already done for many years. And so I worked with them, and we launched the first cohort last week. We have 15 students. And,
15?
Yeah, 15. And it's working very well. There's people from all walks of life, from different ages, from young graduates to people in their 50s. And most people have zero technical background. And my goal with this course is to show them the power of code, what you can do by combining AI with understanding of what code can do. So I have designed the methodology to get them to be able to basically build their own tools. The goal is not to create commercial product at the end of 3 weeks, 15 hours of classes, but to be able to create tools that are useful to them and to open their eyes to the world of software creation and the ability of building all kinds of things.
Yeah. Nice. And how is it going? So it's a 15 people cohort.
Yep.
And you said you have young graduates to people over their 50s. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
How's that balance between different generations? How are they approaching vibe coding, and why are they doing it?
So they all have different reasons for doing it, but overall they all want to be better at what they do, and they come from different industries, and they want to enhance their skill within that industry, understanding that AI is going to have an impact, and they want to be not just kind of a passive user or non-user, but actually be able to do something with it. I don't really see a huge difference, frankly, between people's behavior based on age. I think it all depends on the level of curiosity. And since they all signed up, they're all pretty curious. So far, yeah.
And how's your approach to teaching vibe coding then? What do you cover on these courses?
Yeah, that's a good question. So so maybe I should step back a little bit why I ended up actually creating a first Udemy course. So I've been playing, so I'm an engineer, but I haven't actually done technical work after I graduated. I went worked in strategy, in marketing, biz dev, VC, and so I haven't really done any coding. And for 20 years I was afraid of code. I was like, oh, this is too hard.
So you have a background in coding, but then
no,
you're afraid of
I don't have a background in coding. I'm an engineer, but I'm a mechanical engineer,
okay.
And so I did a little bit of coding, but mostly for like research and science, like with like MATLAB and some other stuff like that. And I remember at the time using C++, and it was so tedious with the syntax, the pointers, the memory allocation, all that stuff.
Some people in the audience.
Yeah, I just felt it was very painful. So put that aside, even though I was interested, it was just tedious. And then a few years ago during COVID, I had a bit of time, and a friend of mine told me that his mom had taken a course in Python online, and that she was starting to code some stuff. And I was like, okay, well, no disrespect, but if my friend's mom can do it, maybe me too, I can do it. Nice. So I tried it, and I did the first course on Udemy, pretty fun, short one called Automating the Boring Stuff with Python. And I thought, okay, that could be interesting. It was like tiny lessons. Each lesson was a few minutes to do just one thing. I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then, you start to manipulate files and send some emails and do all kinds of things. And I discovered that it was just amazing what code could do. It was with all the libraries you have in Python, then the APIs that you can connect with multiple services. And I realized, actually, this is a little bit like playing Lego. You do a little bit of plumbing between one function and another. You just need to understand how to plug correctly one to the other, and then off you go. There was still, some tediousness with syntax, but when GPT-3 was released, gradually I started to use a lot more and more AI to ask to fix things. Before that, I was going to Stack Overflow and Google trying to solve things, or the docs.
So you're using a lot of Stack Overflow at some point.
Yeah.
Just naturally you
transition to AI because AI.
With GPT.
Exactly, because AI is trained on Stack Overflow, on millions of lines of code. On top of that, GitHub and everything. And so I realized, okay, so now I can just ask the questions every time I have a bug. And I was reading less and less the code. I was barely reading the bug, just copying the errors. And then I was ending up actually just asking the AI to write the code. And I wasn't even looking at it. I was just copy and pasting it. And I had enough understanding of code to know how to ask and what results I could expect. But sometimes I was also exploring. I'm like, oh, how would you do this? I don't know how to do it. How would you do it? And then I realized, okay, when Andrej Karpathy coined the term vibe coding February, I was like, oh, that's what I've been doing for a year.
I've been vibing for a year already.
Essentially. So I was doing that, yeah.
And these tools were mostly internal tools for you?
So initially, there was just, playing around just with some personal projects. And then gradually, I started to gain a bit more confidence. Thought, okay, maybe it could help me doing things in my work. And so I started to use it at work. And I'll give some examples later. Through that, I realized, okay, there's really something there. I started to try to convince my colleagues. Everybody starting to talk about AI. We had a bi-weekly meeting talking about AI. I said, actually, if doing those things, maybe I could show you how I'm doing it. And that's sort of the genesis of the course. I realized, okay, I have a lot of examples on an approach, on some material I can use to try to teach people. So I did a workshop internally. And then
people started to ask, hey, Ben, help me here.
A little bit, yeah. I think they were just curious. The IT, it's funny because I'm not part of the IT team, and people want...
Tell us a little bit about you then.
Yeah. So I work in VC. I'm with a US fund with over $1 billion under management. I'm mostly in a support role with the portfolio. So I work with a portfolio for all kinds of things, but largely some marketing, some matchmaking with VCs. And I run virtual events that are quite large with hundreds of VCs, hundreds of startups trying to meet each other. And I actually build tools to help with that. And so in between the non-tech people and the IT team, I was there. And I was starting to build things that mostly I run on my machine for my work. But the IT team got curious and other people got curious, and I started more and more conversations. And then in February, when the term was coined, another thing was coined was my son was born.
Oh, nice. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And I couldn't really sleep. And so
I know that.
I decided that rather than trying to fight and go back to sleep, I'm awake, why not do something, accept the new reality that I don't choose when I sleep. And decided to make use of the waking hours to put this little course together because the timing seemed right. So I put a bunch of the examples from work, but a bunch of also fun projects I've been doing for myself. And I created this short course, which I believe was the first one on Udemy to tackle vibe coding. Okay. And it got some attention, got probably close to 3,000 students now. Nice. And I was like, okay, that's fun. But then I also started to get feedback from the students. So some students were getting it immediately, were like, oh, this is great, it's an eye-opener. And some people were actually struggling a lot because I was trying to do something really fast and fun. And some people were really struggling with just the setup. Like, how do I get the tool to work? And I realized I hadn't really spent a whole lot of time explaining how to set up, because I'm like, oh, if you need to set up, just go on YouTube and find out how to install the code editor and everything. But a lot of people needed more hand-holding, and I realized the tools I was using was VS Code, it's a code editor that's quite popular with software developers, was probably a little bit too advanced for many people.
So you were still using dev tools in a way?
Yeah, I had started trying to use simpler tools and like a more simplified forms, but then eventually I was using VS Code, which is kind of the standard. But for total beginners, I realized it's a bit scary because they're like, oh, where is the file? Where is it saving it? What is it doing to my computer? Oh, I need to install Python. How? What? There's like environments and the libraries, and there's different versions, and they had all those problems. So after I launched the course, I ran a small workshop to test with a live audience in Lisbon. And one of the participants was very enthusiastic and introduced me to that coding school. And then I realized, okay, I need to change a bit the approach to make sure I don't lose anybody, essentially. Because it's one thing to pay, a few tens of dollars for an online course that you do yourself, and it's another to pay hundreds for an in-person course over 15 hours, right? So I changed the tools I was using to have an easier environment, easier onboarding, and you were asking about the material. So for people familiar with the topic, I'm using mostly Google Colab as a start, which is both a code editor combined with the Gemini AI for coding. And the advantage that it's all a virtual self-contained environment. So it doesn't touch your machine, it doesn't break anything on your machine, and it resets when you're done, basically. Okay. And my approach is to start with very simple functions, like one function thing, to introduce the variety of technologies and libraries that exist in the Python environment. Because you could give a tool to start building stuff to anyone, but maybe they will feel like, okay, but where do I start? What can it do? Okay. People know they can make websites, but if you want to do something more interesting with more like advanced backend logic with maybe some ChatGPT API or some libraries for, I don't know, computer vision or some other stuff like that, you really don't know if you've never seen it. So basically the first week of the course, I introduced a bunch of libraries and a bunch of APIs to show how you connect everything. And then the second week this week, actually the second week, I connect things.
It's interesting. So you feel that for early beginners, so Google Colab is a good way to start in your perspective.
As a tool, but the problem is, what do you do? Yeah. It's a good environment, it's a simple environment because it's safe, it's virtual, it's self-contained. But then what do you do? If you don't know anything about code, you've never heard of libraries and APIs, you don't even know what to start, don't even know what to ask. What can you do?
So it's interesting. So it's important to have some basics even when you start vibe coding.
Yeah, and I'd say it's not even technical ability, it's more about some kind of culture around what code can do.
Okay, that's an interesting point.
Yeah.
So culture around what code can do.
Yeah.
How do you transmit that to beginners then?
A bunch of examples.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's currently the first week of the course.
Yeah, so we did that already. So I showed, I don't know, like a dozen different libraries to do all kinds of things, probably as many APIs. So just to give an example, in when we see API, so okay, let's play with the OpenAI API, the ChatGPT, and let's prompt it to write some text. So let's give it a topic and ask it to write a haiku. Okay, now we're going to take this haiku and we're going to do another prompt so that we take this haiku and we use OpenAI API again to generate an image based on the haiku. All right. And then we have the image and we're going to ask OpenAI to analyze the image and describe it. And then we're even going to ask it to determine if this image is made by AI and explain the reasoning. So you realize you can do all those things separately, and what we're doing this week is actually starting to connect everything into a single program. So you can basically start with a haiku. Actually, we're even connecting to another thing, which is a code generator, or like a library.
All of those are like micro tools.
That's right. And then you start plugging them, and
Very specific function.
and then at the end of this program, so we have a this week we're going to do a program that generates a random quote, writes a haiku from the quote, makes an image from the haiku, and then sends an email to your email with the image and the haiku.
All right.
So that's 4 different functions that we'll have to combine in one single program. And you realize that a lot of programs, a lot of things you want to do is just, as I said, kind of Lego blocks or plumbing. You just need to connect the right elements.
Prompting. All of this.
Yeah, so you learn to prompt effectively so that each separate function works, and then you learn how to glue them together correctly.
All right.
Also with prompting. We try to not read the code at all, but we try to understand how to connect properly.
All right. Okay. No, that's really good. Overall, I think it's a really interesting approach, because in the end, what you're actually doing is kind of helping them think on an architectural manner. Right?
Yeah, that's quite true. Yeah. Almost like product specifications in a way.
You're building the product. You don't need to worry about the code. You don't need to worry about the syntax.
Yeah.
But in the end, you're just not saying them, hey, build me a tool that sends a haiku to an email and generates an image, right?
You could try it like that, but probably it's not going to work. But if you tell it...
But I think that's what a lot of people are expecting from vibe coding, right?
That's right. So actually, that's what I was sort of mentioning earlier, is that as you transition to doing very, very simple one-function thing where you can vibe code them, when you try to build something a bit more complex, you realize you actually need to be quite organized and quite specific. And so it kind of kills the vibe, but you get the result. And the new term for this is context engineering.
Okay.
Yeah. Also Andrei Karpathy.
So that's an interesting. So can you dig further? What's this context engineering concept then?
So the way I look at it is basically to be very clear about the inputs and outputs, about the steps. You can almost like have bullet points on the sequence of bullet points, and ideally also specify the technologies you want to use. And that's where the culture is important. Because, for example, let's say you want to send an email. Okay, there's like 10 ways to send an email. Are you using SMTP library? Are you using an API from MailChimp or some other, like a SendGrid or something rather? So if you don't know any of that stuff, at least you know you should ask the AI to suggest solutions to you, and you should have some understanding that help you choose. Otherwise, it's just going to decide for you, and you might not get what you want. Because, for example, SMTP library, that's free. The SendGrid, it's a paid API. And you need to register, you need a credit card. And it has all kinds of other functions, but maybe that's not what you need. So, like building this kind of a culture of the ability to imagine that there might be a technology brick that you can just use and put into your product or your tool rather is, I think, really important.
Okay, so that reasoning part is still not AI that does it, right?
You can ask the AI and then you can make the choice. So you can ask the AI to help you decide. For example, find me a free library that does this. Okay. You can be specific, but the more you can the clearer you are in what you want, the better results going to be.
Got it. So it's very interesting because I really like that approach, which in the end you're breaking down every small thing, but people have to be conscious about that, right? You need to be understanding the product that you're building in the end, and still have control about that.
Yeah. I like. So my approach is to try to break things into elements and then validate each element separately, and then try to put them together, adding them one by one, and that works pretty well, and that helps you look at problems and start to break them down into the elements and like, okay, what do I need to do this? This. So as I sometimes throw that exercise to the students, I say, okay, imagine you want to build this. What do you need? And they can start imagining, okay, we need, some voice transcription and computer vision and then email thing. And like, okay, and list the elements you need, list the order, and start with, whichever element you want, and build step by step. Yeah, break it down. That's right.
And on your course, right? So the students are started with doing all that exercise. Will they do their own product by the end?
Next week.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Any crazy projects coming up?
So I just asked them to start thinking about it, and I had just have the first input. But one guy said he wants to create some kind of basketball coach.
Okay.
And so I already started discussing with him, but I said, okay, well, what do you need?
Yeah.
He said, well, probably some computer vision, and then some object tracking, and then maybe some kind of a scoring system. Well, this morning, I'll show you later, in about 10 minutes, I got a little prototype.
Nice. With computer vision.
I'm not doing it for them, but just I was curious what it would take, so to guide. There's a library called OpenCV that does computer vision very well, and and ChatGPT knows how to make it, to use it.
Okay.
Another one said he has a bunch of notes from books he's read, maybe on Kindle or something, and he said, I'd like to summarize those notes and send myself an email with like a bullet point summary every morning based on the notes. So I actually just responded to him today. I said, okay, well, you could probably flesh it out discussing with ChatGPT. You can also ask the AI to ask you the questions it needs to actually clarify what you want. But I did it a little bit. I said, okay, well, then you probably first need to convert all your files into an organ, maybe put that all in one folder, then maybe rename everything so that it's well organized. Then you probably want to run a ChatGPT on each file one by one and output a summary. And then you want to select a random summary among the ones you haven't sent already and send that by email. So 1, 2, 3, 4 steps, and off you go. Okay. I think it can be done in maybe 2 hours, maybe less.
Nice.
And
essentially, it's kind of you break down the project, and then you find the right Lego blocks that you want.
Yeah, I'm not going to need to do it for them, but I'm going to guide them and help them break it down. But ideally, even the break it down part, I want them to get used to do it themselves or use the AI to help them do it.
Got it.
So, but it's not
very interesting. No, that's super interesting, and would love to see the outcome of those.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll have a showcase. I actually was just thinking today that if
it's impressive. It's 3 weeks program, right? So
yeah, it's 15 hours, but the project they're actually going to build because I have a guest speaker on that session. A friend of mine turns out to be the lead designer of Lovable.
Okay.
So
nice.
I brought him in.
We should have him here.
Well, yeah, he could. He's in London, but he will.
I will get him to the Weizmann.
And so the goal is that they build their thing in an hour and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there will be one single session for them to build the entire.
Yeah, they can do more if they want, but the class time dedicated to that is an hour and a half.
For people who start something with no knowledge of code and within 15 hours, 3 weeks to be able to build something in 1 hour and a half.
We'll see what happens. But I mean, I told you to do a dirty prototype of the basketball tracker. It took me 10 minutes this morning, so
cool.
Maybe somebody less experienced
that's absolutely
can do it.
Yeah. That's a big enabler for people, right? And on that topic, like enabling yourself, right? I think it would be interesting to hear now also a little bit about your own developments, right? Before starting the course, I think it's amazing that you're sharing the techniques and your approach, but also creating a structured manner to do this. Because I think there's this idea that vibe coding, again, is just one prompt and it's out. But there's some method, right, to the madness.
Yeah, if you want reliable results and build something a bit beyond a basic landing page, you need to understand a bit more what's going on.
Tell us a little bit more about your own bigger projects, right? What have you built?
Yeah, so in the second part, I actually have some examples I'll show. I wouldn't say I've built big things, but I've built a bunch of things I'm happy with and that I use frequently. So for my work, I've built a service that's used by a few hundred participants in the online events I run, which is kind of a Tinder for investors, where they can see the profile of hundreds of startups and select or reject what they like. So that help them go through much faster through the participants. And because sometimes the key is not just to have the information, is to have it presented in a very digestible way. So that's what I try to focus on, and that's what I suppose dating apps are good at. Yeah. So this is pretty much the only tool that I've exposed to people outside the company. Okay. But I've built...
Any concerns or bugs, or is it working smoothly?
No, it's working smoothly. The concerns were around security because there's some login. And I talked with IT, and I got that sorted without too much trouble. Because, yeah, I'd say there's different levels of constraint depending on who your audience is. If, let's say, you can build personal tools, you can build tools for your team, internal tools. So personal, internal, things, let's say, with partners, and then public things. So you have those 4 levels, and the requirements are very different. If you do, particularly in terms of security, reliability, scalability. Yeah. There's one more element, user experience, user interface. When I build tools for myself,
you don't care, right?
I don't care about any of that. Security doesn't matter. User interface command line is fine. Scalability doesn't matter, and reliability. I'm not going to try to make it do something I know it cannot do. Mm-hmm. So it has to be reliable for what it does, but I'm not going to have all kinds of tests of edge cases and people trying to break the thing, right? When you go one level up, so that's actually where I actually recommend starting for vibe coding and building things is for yourself. And it's actually
not building the first SaaS.
No, I think people who try to build SaaS from the get-go, some people are very motivated and sort things out by having a big project idea, and it works for some. But I think there's a lot of things to clear to get there. Yeah. And if you want to have some early successes, it's easier to start with what you can actually achieve, and has less constraints. When you start to build things for your team, probably security still doesn't matter. User interface more and reliability more, because if your colleagues use the thing and break it or it looks horrible, they don't really want to use it. And then partners, again, it has to be another level. And then when it's public, the requirements are the highest. It has to be secure, it has to be reliable, beautiful, scalable. So I think it will take some time before I build something public, fully public, but I might do. I don't have a clear idea of what to do yet, but that's where it's actually beautiful. What happened with AI and code is that many people have domain knowledge and know problems that people just like them have, or people in the industry have. Yes. But building something so far was expensive. And the people with domain knowledge were not able to actually build the thing or pay for it. But now with AI, if you learn how to use that, you can actually do it. You can solve a problem for people for yourself or in the industry. Like I have a friend who's in the music industry. He's been a producer for many years. And he said, I have this big problem of always finding who are the rights owners for this and that, and it's a big headache. And he got a bit kind of motivated when I was telling him about vibe coding. And he's totally not technical, but he started to use some tools and eventually he said, I built the tool I needed, and it solved everything in seconds, and I know a bunch of people in my industry who would love to have it. Yeah. And nobody who's not in that industry could imagine that, right? So I think it's really an enabler. And the metaphor I like to use, I don't know if that's the perfect one, but if you think about medieval warfare, which is a particular domain. Yes. So you had the people, with the sword and the horse riders, but you also had the longbow people, the bow people, archers, shooting from really far, and they were taking years and years to train, and then came the crossbow, and you could train a peasant in days to shoot somebody at 50 meters, and suddenly totally change. How the kind of army could be actually powerful. You could recruit a bunch of peasants, give them, crossbows, and you didn't need years to train them. It was a big change. And I feel a little bit like with AI coding, like a peasant with a crossbow.
Okay, that's a good
That's,
analogy. Present with a crossbow, I like that.
That's right.
Cool. So yeah, but tell us then a little bit more about that specific tool. That's very interesting. So, because that one, it's not fully public,
Yeah.
but it was used by a few dozens or
Hundreds.
maybe hundreds of
Yeah.
people already, maybe even at the same time, right? Tell us a little bit more. How did you actually put that into an environment that's public?
Yeah. Yeah, so if you want something to run in public, you need to host the code somewhere. So these days, some of the tools like Replit, Lovable, can actually deploy code for you and host it for you in a pretty, like a one-click way. But in my case, I wanted to have a lot of control, and I used just a simple hosting solution, so a simple thing.
So you don't use these typical vibe coding tools like Replit,
not for deployment,
like
no, because I think those tools are great at many things. I haven't used them a lot, so I can't really comment so much on it. But I like to see a bit the code and what's going on. And I think some of those tools kind of
really great, and where do they fall short?
I think to some
extent, what's your advice on using those tools if someone wants to start?
I think they're really fun, and some of them come up with fantastic front ends, fantastic designs. But the problem is that they're really like black boxes. So it's already a black box to prompt, but then when you hide all the code and all the files, it's even more of a black box. And I haven't seen clearly how I could easily connect the backend logic I want with the front end that they can do and deploy that properly. So maybe I just need more practice with those tools. But these days I use mostly Cursor, which is a kind of a VS Code plus AI on top. And that works pretty well. I'm pretty happy with it. And sometimes have, ChatGPT window on the side to prompt some more extra stuff. But yeah, mostly.
But still prompting. You never actually write code or the syntax.
Yeah, no. Sometimes I edit a tiny thing when it's faster than reprompt. But yeah, no, I don't fix.
So in your perspective, these lovables, bolts, V0s, they are good to generate ideas, to do the front ends. But if you and you kind of confirm that if you build a product that you want to then put it publicly, you wouldn't use those tools. You would use your own method. Again,
maybe it's because I haven't used them enough, so I don't want really to give a judgment on what they can do. But my experience of them, very limited, has been that you get great front end, but I don't really know how to connect the backend logic. Also, I'm a bit limited by my own skills. For example, Lovable doesn't really use Python. And I only know Python. I mean, I know a bit of HTML, CSS stuff, but the backend logic is Python, whereas they use JavaScript and other things like that. So it's not a tool for me. It could be a tool for some. Definitely, it is a tool for a lot of other people because they're on a track for 100 million in revenue.
So the language that it writes matters for you.
Yeah, because I'm comfortable with the way Python. I think Python is a very approachable language. It reads a little bit like English. It's very simple. I think it's really friendly for anybody who wants to look at the code. You have the comments, the functions. It's pretty well organized. And even if you don't read code, I still sometimes with the students go through the file, say, okay, this section does that, this section does that. And we don't need the detail. We just need the title or the comment on it to understand what's going on. And we can look at if there's some weird values, or like if, for example, it's pointing at a file named X or in the wrong place, you can see it in the code, and you don't need to know coding for that.
Yeah, of course. No, that makes sense. And yeah, we will soon also jump into the examples that you brought. I think that will be really, really interesting. One question still about that application, right? So you then say that you used self-hosting, you used Cursor. Did you also use Google Colab at some point? So explain us maybe the full tech stack
so Colab,
to build that application from end to end.
No, so I prompted, at the time I prompted everything in ChatGPT, and then I pasted it and run it in VS Code to test it. And when it was working okay, then I put it online on a service called Python Anywhere that goes there's a free service of $5 a month to get a bit more features. And
the front end, that's all back-end logic, right?
It was also generated, if I recall, by ChatGPT as well. Yeah, but actually it took the tweaking the front end, my God, it's so painful sometimes.
Yeah.
You want the pixels to move in the right thing and to have the right size, and that can be quite tedious. If I knew better web design, I could probably prompt more efficiently. But I know a little bit, and it took me a while to adjust things. But in 2 weeks, it was done, basically.
But did you also use Python anywhere to deploy the front end, or was the front end deployed?
Yeah, there was all hosted. Yeah, front end, back end on Python anywhere. Just put all the files there, and then it's running. It's running. I also have a couple of other things on Python anywhere. Like I have a couple of scripts that are executed every day. One is sending me the reviews for the Udemy course using the Udemy API, because I don't want to run it every day from my computer and open the code. And I don't want to have the code running on my computer either. So I put it online. There's a function that can run it every hour or every day or whatever. And it sends me the reviews.
On Udemy, you get it.
So yeah, I get a Telegram, a Telegram bot that sends me.
And you built everything.
Yeah.
Using vibe coding.
That's right. Yeah.
That's really cool. Maybe one last question before we also jump to some questions from the audience and then your showcases. I think that will be interesting. What's your vision on the future of vibe coding and the actual impact on even on society?
So I think the future is already kind of partly playing out. Is that if you do like just the vibes, like prompt and hope everything goes well, I think you hit a ceiling pretty fast beyond websites.
All right.
It's difficult to build something really more very sophisticated. But if you start to understand how code is structured, and obviously there's going to be a smaller number of people who take that step, like for example, by studying a little bit, understanding those things, then the people who go to that step are able to build tools for themselves and their team. And maybe later the tools that we use for building that will be able to deploy more securely, and maybe some payment logic that will be easy to integrate. I think there's also a totally different track, which is not vibe coding, which is more like workflow automation with tools, maybe you know Zapier.
Yeah.
So there's another one, a tool that's recently getting traction called N8N. So I think they pronounce Nathan. And so where you say, okay, when there's a new meeting on my calendar, you check who's participating, you research my email, you send me a Slack message, so you can block.
It's very visual, right?
Yeah, it's very visual. So you don't do any code, any prompting. It's all about plugging the ins and outs, but in a visual tool. I think that's also really useful. So to me, you have to figure out what's the right tool for the job you intend to do. And now, in terms of impact, it will have, I think already AI has destroyed a lot of entry-level tech jobs. The hirings are way down. There's less and less jobs on Upwork, on services like this, because the senior programmers are able to just prompt and get the result without having to manage junior staff. Yeah. So it saves a lot of time and a lot of money. The problem is that there's a lot of junior staff that is not being trained right now. So in a few years' time, who are going to be the senior staff? Yeah. So I think it's going to be a bit of a problem.
Okay, that's interesting. But do you think that, like AI, is there any kind of vibe coder style of person that sometime in the future will replace maybe the job of what's currently a software engineer or not? Do you see that happening? Or
I think it's going to be tricky because of the requirements I mentioned. When you do anything commercial, the requirements are very high, and you can't rely. Actually, I'll quote.
We're still not there in your opinion.
Yeah, I'll quote one person who left a comment on my Udemy course. It was like running unverified code on a work computer. You want me banned? So AI code is unverified code. If you don't have the skills to verify it and ensure it's doing what it's supposed to do or fix it, then you cannot create a commercial product. It won't get there. So
Do you think that AI will reach a point where we don't
it's
need
more
to verify
reliable.
it?
Yeah, I think it's getting better and better, but not verify. I think it depends what it's for. If it's to hose your garden, maybe it's okay. But if it's software that goes into anything that's important, I don't know. Would you drive a car or that's has code like that?
That's a good question.
I don't know.
Probably not.
Yeah. So if you need highest reliability, scalability, and quality, and right interface, AI can rehash well-known things, but doesn't spot its own mistakes very well sometimes. It's better. It's getting better, but you want sometimes human to actually be able to
So
come to
you're
the
in
rescue, like
school
the
of thought-
human fallback.
Yeah, so you're in the school of thought that for now vibe coding is really good as a personal enabler, as something that can help you build very specific, context specific and domain specific tools almost just for you very quickly.
Yep.
But we're still a bit far away from
I think it
commercially great products.
Yeah, I think it definitely broadens the pyramid because now, before to actually build even the simple tool, you needed to train for years, like an archer, right? Now you just need a few days or a few hours.
It's a crossbow, right?
Yeah, it's crossbow. And that gets you to the first level of what people took years before. But to get to the other levels, so it will broaden the pyramid by 10x of people able to build stuff. But to get to the next level, well, you lose a big factor. But since the base is 10x bigger, you will have also a lot of people who will go to the next level. And then, yeah. So
okay, that makes.
I think there will be more and more people. And I think what's really exciting is that there's a lot of opportunities in so many industries of products that just don't exist because then they were not viable so far. Or because the people who have the domain knowledge couldn't really communicate it efficiently to the people who actually build the things. But now they maybe can do themselves partly.
Awesome.
So,
Cool.
or team up with a tech person, get the prototype up to a stage, they can hand it over to somebody who can take it to the final steps.
To create that communication right before, because sometimes before that,
because you can see the functionality.
Ideas and then the tech person will build something that it wasn't what you wanted.
Yep.
Now it's easier to.
Yeah, because you can build the first mock-up.
That communication. Questions for Ben from the audience. We have one there.
Where do you see like the future of these tools like Bolt or Lovable as like regular LLMs like ChatGPT become more agnostic, more powerful, and more agentic too? Like, I'm a super early user of Lovable. I still use it almost daily, love it. But like as other AI systems just get more powerful, more agentic, so heavily commoditized, is there a future for that?
Yeah, I don't know how things are going to go, but it looks like LLMs like Gemini or ChatGPT or Claude kind of are expanding what they can do, and they will do, I mostly code with ChatGPT, but you see the emergence of very specialized tools for example, like just coding or just website building or just image generation or video generation. And I tend to think that when you specialize, you're better than people who don't specialize. So I think there would be general tools able to do all kinds of things, like ChatGPT. Probably not many of them because it's very expensive to do all kinds of things well. And then a bunch of specialized tools. And so all those tools are going to get better. I hope that, for example, Lovable starts to embrace Python at some point, and that maybe they have an easy way to integrate a payment system with Stripe. Maybe they can already do it. I don't know. And they might be very good at building all the website stuff, kind of a website builder with some backend logic, so like a Wix Plus kind of thing. I don't know how far they'll be able to go in building like complex backends. It seems that they could do it, but is this the best market for them to pursue? I don't know. So I think it's going to be specialized tools, general tools, and all getting better, and it's great.
Yeah. We have a question here, and then.
What do you say is the first steps for somebody in Web 2 or Web 1 who has a traditional business to get literate on how to create a digital product?
So it depends kind of what you already know. If you know a bit of HTML, CSS, or if you know a bit of programming. So I started with an online course. So I'm going to promote a bit my Udemy course, but there's other courses on more, like for example, you want to learn Cursor, there's a great Cursor course. You want to learn Lovable, I'm sure there's some Lovable courses. And those cost, Udemy discounts all the time, so it's like maybe 10, 20 bucks. So it's like negligible amount of cash compared to the learning and the value you can get out of it. The problem is that it's all self-directed. So if you bump into problems and you're not very persistent or you don't know how to solve it, you might just abandon it. I just look at the number of people who bought the course and actually dropped or never started it. It's actually a lot of people. And I'm sure it's the same for every course. So also, if you want to be able to have something a bit organized and a bit supported, so some group courses can be useful. There might be, I don't think there's anything yet in any university that exists for those things. You might want to, look at examples, read around. There's a lot of YouTube channels that show things, but so I follow a number of YouTube channels who talk about like AI news, but in terms of building things, because the kind of YouTube style, people talk a lot, and after 3 hours, you haven't really seen that much stuff. So if you want something more compact, probably an organized curriculum is better, but it's pretty new, so there's not a lot of places to learn that. There's a few platforms offering, online things, but I learned mostly myself. I checked a few online courses like Udemy, or there's a few free things, like for example, Andrew Ng, the AI guy, has a few things on deeplearning.ai, like some free courses. But it depends where you start from and what you want to learn. If you want a broad view, there's different. You will pick different sources. But I'd say online courses, group courses, YouTube stuff, practice. Yeah.
Cool. Any question there?
You stole my question.
Okay. One more question for Ben.
So you mentioned that on your 3D course that the students were creating blocks, right?
Yep.
I'm assuming that everyone is creating the same sort of blocks. How can you make sure that everyone is getting the same sort of results when like an LLM is not deterministic?
Great question.
How can you make sure that everyone is
That is a good question.
Great question. I ask them. So what happens is that I tell them, okay, we're going to do this. Let's say send an email. First, here is my code. Run my code. See that it works. Now, try to prompt to get the same result. And I say, I use this API or this library. Try to prompt. You can specify the library or not, and try to get the same result. And if you don't get the same result, try again. And if you get an error, see if you can solve it. And if not, I basically ask the students to share their screen, and we look at it. And I tell them actually looking at errors is just as important as what I'm teaching, because as you're building things, you will encounter errors all the time, and you need to learn how to solve all those problems you encounter. I have some kind of classification of typical like code errors, like probably like a half a dozen typical code errors, and half a dozen typical errors from AI, so like hallucinations and stuff like that. And I say, okay, what kind of error is that? Okay, that looks like an error because it picked the wrong implementation of the API because the API changed. Okay, so once you've seen most of the typical errors, you're able to solve them on your own. So, but yeah, basically, ask them, do you get the same result? If they don't and they have a problem, we analyze it until it's solved.
Yeah. Cool. One final question.
Just kind of generic question. As an angel investor, like you've been reviewing a lot of startups, right? And just like curious about what is going to remain as the biggest struggle for most of the startups? Like where they fall down, what stage?
Well, it's quite off topic, so I'm not sure I should answer. Maybe I'll answer later, if that's okay.
Yeah, we have some coffee break, getting prepared somewhere, and Ben will be on you. So, Final words, Ben. Anything? If people, before we jump into the showcase, how can people find you?
Yeah.
What do you want to promote? What's your upcoming agenda?
I think
it's time
yeah,
for.
I
for
promoted enough, but you can find me on LinkedIn, and there's my email on there too. I mentioned a couple of courses. I'm not going to repeat, and maybe just as kind of a wrapping thoughts here. I think we're part of one of the most exciting technological waves that's happened in my lifetime. I've seen a few other tech waves. I sort of missed the internet wave, sort of missed the mobile wave, did a bit of the IoT wave. And I think what's really different is that quite often the waves start with rich people, people with resources and knowledge. And here, this is a wave that can actually be surfed by pretty much anyone.
Yes. Yeah, of course.
I think it's going to be transformative. On top of that, I think it's a really empowering and fun skill to have and acquire. And thanks to AI, it's also the easiest it's ever been. So learning how to actually use the computers we use every day, but in a much more empowering way. So if anything, I'd say try it out and maybe
I absolutely agree with you.
have fun.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. And I was having a conversation with Pedro earlier today. It's about it. It's fun. It is fun. So yeah, Ben, thanks a lot for having you here. Round of applause for Ben.
Thank you.
Now
So
we stay where we are. We're just going to rearrange this very quickly.
little showcase maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. I can show.
Ben will also, and this was something that was requested on the previous session, so we're all screening. Ben will showcase a little bit of his projects, go through a little bit of his workflow. Do you want us to rearrange?
No, it's okay.
Because we can move the tables a little bit here.
I mean, if it's all good for the camera, I'm good.
You can sit down if you want.
No, it's okay. I'll stand. Just move that. So, yeah, because it's one thing to talk about vibe coding. I told you that to actually understand what's going on with code and what you can do, it's really important to see examples. So I brought some examples. So, so there's different generations in the room, but maybe some of you have watched the show from HBO called Silicon Valley. Anybody watch that? So I watched Silicon Valley. I just rewatched it. Fantastic. So for those who don't know, that's a show that started about 10 years ago, had 7 seasons, the story of a crazy startup in Silicon Valley where all the terrible possible things happened with investors and competitors and technologies. And it's a really fun show. It's a very good crash course on startup life. A bit feels like work a little bit for me working in VC, but it's also very fun. And in this show, in one episode, there's one of the characters who creates an app that's using advanced computer vision. So remember, it's 10 years ago, so computer vision wasn't as prevalent as today. And so I'm going to show you a little clip from a little video from that show to illustrate.
Let's start with a hot dog. Oh shit! Yes! Oh, what the fuck? Do pizza. Let's do pizza.
Yeah.
Pizza. Hey, Zach.
Not hot dog?
And?
That's it? It only does hot dogs?
And a not hot dog. Do a drink.
So that's the clip. So initially people were impressed and they realized, what, it only recognizes hot dogs? What terrible software is that? I think it was very fun. And at the time was actually an impressive thing. In the show, the guy sells his company for a few $1 million to a big portal who needs like technology for content moderation. I'll let you imagine what kind. And here is what you can do with vibe coding.
We can do a lot of things with computer vision. How about creating a program that can recognize if an image is a hot dog or not? Let's ask ChatGPT to do that. write a Python program that looks
So ChatGPT on the left,
images
a code
over
editor,
and
VS Code on the right,
checks
to
if
just
every
paste and run the
image
code.
is a hot dog or not. Output the results in alphabetical order. ChatGPT is using a number of libraries for computer vision that are quite advanced. We don't really need to know any of that. Let's just copy and paste the code. Let's save it as hotdog.py. I have prepared several images to challenge this program. Here's the first, the second, the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth image. Let's see what the code can do.
So running the code on the terminal
It
window.
recognized correctly that the first three are hot dogs and the following three are not hot dogs. It worked perfectly. Let's see what percentages were assigned to those images. Modify.
Okay, I'm going to
We
stop
can
there.
do a lot of things with computer.
Actually, I go beyond and try to identify everything. But basically, you saw in 2 minutes, recreated the hot dog, not hot dog app with vibe coding, with ChatGPT. That's basically what it is. And if you're not aware that there's free libraries for computer vision that exist and that you can use in code, how are you going to do that? And funny enough, actually, when I was downloading the video clip from YouTube, there were some comments, and some people were saying, oh, you know, wow, it's super impressive. I work in an AI company. Computer vision is really hard. And another comment was saying, actually, 10 years ago, it was hard, but now you really have, you know, already things. And the first comment was a guy who was working in an AI company 2 years ago. So anyhow, so I'll show you some examples. So this lesson is part of the Udemy course. And actually, we also redo it in person. So the examples I showed from work. So we need a lot of data in our work as a VC about startups, about investments. So we need always a bunch of scrapers. And scrapers, there's some out there, but sometimes they don't exactly do what you want. So essentially, I ended up creating a bunch of custom scrapers all the time. And it's pretty quick. So for example, I had this startup map with AI startups, with over 2,000 startups, and each of them had a little page like this. And I couldn't download it. I couldn't just do a screenshot because then I wouldn't have this info, so I needed to scrape it. And yeah, so that took, I don't know, maybe half an hour to get right. And then I got my 2,000 startups. A bunch of other things. Custom matching, I mentioned. So this is, I realized that when we're doing those online events, a lot of investors were quite passive. And I thought, okay, well, maybe if they don't like a pool, maybe I can push some stuff to them. So I created a system that basically takes the preferences that they registered when they sign up, take the list of startups, filter all the startups according to the preferences, and then creates a custom formatted email for each investor with a selection of startups just for them. So I send 1,000 emails with 20 startups 3 times, so it's 60,000 custom recommendations, and that takes me 2 clicks. And I couldn't really do that with a tool like MailChimp because it's too custom for MailChimp. But you see, it has all the information, the links to the platform, the name, how much funding they raised, and everything. So that's an example. I mentioned the Tinder for investors, so that's kind of the front end. No sexy picture, but they have the names, how much they're raising, the categories, the description. So this is for health stuff, so there's information about FDA approval and some other stuff. And so it creates also a custom list for each investor that they can download at any time. So my colleague told me he reviews about 100 startups in 10 minutes with this tool. So it gives you also the level of attention that investors give to it. Anyway, it's yeah. So this one I show because it's kind of fun. So maybe you're familiar with Google Alerts. So it's a service by Google where you can enter some search terms and you can have Google either send you emails every day or every week about the news on the keywords you typed, or give you an RSS feed that you can put into some tool. And I had to create 100 Google Alerts. And creating one is like 10 different clicks and moving the mouse around, and it's kind of tedious. And there's this idea of a productive laziness where you will put a lot of effort into building something complicated that avoids something tedious. but sometimes the effort is much more than the initial task. But I thought, okay, let's do that with Google Alerts. So this is kind of what I wanted to do. Do I have a video? No, I don't have video. Is to basically type keywords, then get the RSS link, and then save it into a file. And I thought, okay, well, I tried to automate the browser, but Google doesn't like when you automate the browser. They put all kinds of CAPTCHA to stop you. So I was like, okay, that doesn't work. So I thought, okay, well, I could automate the mouse and keyboard, but then I would need to know the position in pixels of each place I wanted to click, and that means I need to measure stuff, and that's tedious. So instead, I did little screenshots of the things I wanted it to click with just a screen capture, and I used computer vision to go click on the thing. So using like big tech to do stupid things, but it's kind of fun to deploy computer vision to do a click. So just for fun. So those are kind of work things. And for play, I heard of a guy who was really. So you have also rental bicycle in Lisbon, right? And in Paris, been around for a while, and there's like the regular bikes and the e-bikes, and many of them are broken. And so one guy got really upset, always picking the wrong bike, and he decided to try to make an app to figure out which is the right bike to pick. And actually, the service called Vélib in France has an API that gives you a lot of information about the stations on the bikes. And so this morning, I actually tried to do something like that. So this is what a station looked like. And I started kind of simple. I wanted to know, like my parents live in Paris, and wanted to know which are the closest stations on what bikes they have. And that took me 10 minutes, and I got this. So this is parents' place, and this is the 5 closest stations, and this is the info about mechanical bikes, e-bikes, how many docks are free, the distance, 10 minutes. So I mentioned the basketball tracker thing. So I tried this morning out of curiosity. It was like, oh, computer vision is not that hard. And so I just did this. Okay, so it's not, it's pretty rough, but that was also like 10 minutes. So I like various AI stuff, and there's a filmmaker that's kind of a weird guy I like. His name is David Lynch. I don't know if some of you maybe know him. He does like surrealist movies. And he passed away a few years ago, but he used to do a weather forecast from actually a weather report from Los Angeles, where he lives. I'll show you the weather report.
Good morning. It's December 15, 2022, and it's a Thursday. Here in LA, a sunny morning right now, very still.
Okay, not going to watch the whole thing, but basically, I thought, oh, it's kind of sad he passed away, and now nobody's doing the weather report. So I thought maybe I could redo it with some AI. So that's where we break it down. And like, okay, what do I need? Well, I need weather data. Okay, Open Weather Map API. Then I need to generate some text based on that to make some funny phrases. Okay, ChatGPT API. Then I need I need his voice. So I need voice cloning. Okay, 11 labs. And then I need some kind of lip sync. Okay, there's a couple of services. I took a cheap one, so the visual is not great because I took the cheapest possible. But this is the result of that.
Good morning. It's Friday the 28th of February, 2025.
He's dead.
The clock reads 4:51 a.m. Here's the latest weather update. City, Paris temperature, 4.89 degrees Celsius. Humidity, 86% weather. Broken clouds. Wind speed, 2.57 m per s. Whispers dance on the edge of twilight, where shadows write secrets in the fog.
Okay, so basically four APIs, and you're good to go. So that's just for fun. And another final kind of funny project, AI in a box. So again, productive laziness. Maybe some of you are like me. You instead of Googling these days, you start ChatGPT and you ask your question to ChatGPT. But that means taking the phone out, unlocking the phone, opening the app, clicking on the microphone So there's probably a shortcut, but anyway, I'm doing it the wrong way. But then talk, and then you have to look, and you have to read. So it's just too much work. So I thought, what if I had a button? I just press the button, I ask my question, and I get the answer. That would be a lot better. So I made that box. Actually, the parts got delivered in this box, so it was convenient to reuse. I asked ChatGPT, I know nothing about electronics, but I asked ChatGPT to help me out. He said, well, you can do that with a Raspberry Pi. It can run Python and everything. I went to the local hackerspace to help me understand how to solder a button on an LED. This is, so what it does, you press a button, you ask a question, press to stop, and inside the box you have speech to text, ChatGPT, and text to speech. And this is a little demo.
What is the best thing to eat in Portugal?
Dangerous.
Taking some time calling the API. Oh, sorry, the speaker is not very loud. It said pastéis de nata. So it's correct. At least we got that right.
You cannot go to a mall with that, right?
Yeah, well, so just for fun also, I thought, okay, that's great, but that's, let's say the Wi-Fi is off. What do you do? Well, the Raspberry Pi 5 actually is pretty good, so I got an offline model loaded. So I have offline speech-to-text, an offline LLM, and an offline text-to-speech. So actually it works offline too. It's just kind of slow and a little bit not as smart. But if you go camping, you never know, if a zombie apocalypse, it can work. I'm thinking also having a new way to power it, maybe with a crank or solar panel, so it can be off-grid as well. Anyway, this is just a little fun project, but it sits on my desk and I use it every day. So Udemy, so just, yeah, final info, if you're interested, the Udemy course. So that's a discount code. It's already only $20, you know. With a discount, I think it's going to be like 13. An hour and a half. It's pretty fast, but it can give you some idea of what you can do. I recommend to watch the whole thing in one go, and only after try to do things yourself. Otherwise, you might get blocked in many ways. But that will give you a good little tech culture. And then I mentioned, so Code for All, so actually my goal was to not do any work and to just license the course to them. But then I thought probably it's better if I run it once or twice before I license it. So I'm finishing the first cohort, and I'm going to run another cohort starting early September for 20 people max. So the format, 15 hours, small group, September 2 to 18. And here's the special thing, is that normally the price $750, but if you're Portuguese or work in Portugal, there's something called the Cheque Formação Plus Digital. That basically gives you the right to spend up to 750 euros on a training, and you're reimbursed by the government. So this course is certified, which means you can get it for free if you have access to this. If you don't, the school agreed for a discount, so you can just email me and arrange that, and it will be around 500 euros instead of 750. So that's it for now. If you're interested in this course, you can scan this and enter your info, or if you just to be on the distribution list for the info. And that's my email related to that. Thank you very much.